Hello students, welcome to iExamB. This is revision series for phase 2 RBI Grade B 2022. In today's video, we are going to discuss measurements of growth, national income and per capita income. Before moving forward to measurements of growth, let's have a look about what is growth. So what is growth means? Growth means there is continuous expansion in the level of output. What it means? It means the level of the output of goods and services is increasing, and this increase should sustain over a long period of time to consider it as growth. Growth is a dynamic concept rather than being static because it is changing over a period of time. So growth is a dynamic concept. There are two types of growth that we discuss when we talk about economic growth. So there is extensive growth and there is intensive growth. While talking about extensive growth, it is actually the growth in the total output, right? And when we talk about intensive growth, rather than seeing growth in the total output, we are more considered about growth in output per capita, right? And growth is actually a subset of development. You should not get confused between growth and development because growth is actually a subset of development. When we talk about development, we see two things. We talk about economic growth and we talk about economic welfare. So there are different measures of growth like GDP, gross domestic product, then gross national product, gross value added, net domestic product, net national product, per capita income and per capita expenditure. Obviously these two are going to be the measures of intensive growth, and these all, because here we are talking about the total output, here we are talking about extensive growth. So first question while studying about growth comes in our mind is that why we study economic growth? What is the reason behind it? So the reason behind it is, first of all, we want to gain understanding about how our economy is progressing, whether it is on the right path or not. Second, we want to know or we want to compare the pace with which economy is progressing. Compare how the old how the economy was performing in the past and now how economy is progressing now. And if in between the economies we can also compare how the paces of the two economies are different. Third, it is very important tool to formulate policies. Okay, so for making policies, economic policy, we want to know how our economy is progressing, and by studying the economic growth, it provides a good insight into the economy, right? So that is why we study the economic growth. Now let's move forward and discuss the various methods that are used to calculate national income. So there are three methods that are used to calculate national income. First one is income method. In it, we consider the income of various factors. That is why the name is income method. In the second method, it is expenditure method, because here we consider, we take expenditure of expenditure made by each and everyone in an economy, and we try to find out what is the national income using expenditures. Okay, so that is why the name is expenditure method. Third method is value added method. It is also known as production method or output method. It is very important, and nowadays it is gaining more and more importance. Please. Okay, so these are the three methods: income, expenditure and value added method for calculating national income. Now let's have a look what are the various components that we have to know while calculating national income using these method. First of all, let's talk about income method. Okay, so for income method, we want to know four things that are: first of all, we want to know the earnings of different factors of production, right? How much the income is earned by each factors of production is what we want to know, because we want to include that while calculating national income. Okay. Second thing that we want to know is how much is the indirect taxes. Third thing is depreciation. Another thing that is needed to calculate in national income using income method is transfer payments. Okay. Coming to the expenditure method, as we discuss here, we take into consideration various expenditure that are made in an economy. Okay, so here we want to know what is the amount of personal consumption expenditure. Then we want to know about the private investment, gross domestic private investment in the economy. Then we want to know about the government expenditure that is made in the economy on various goods and services. And another last and important thing that we want to include while calculating expenditure method is we want to know how much there is net foreign investment. And how we calculate net foreign investment? By subtracting imports from export. So here we subtract the values of import from the export, and then we calculate net foreign investment, and that we include while calculating national income using expenditure method. Third one, that is value added method. It, as the name suggested, here we take into account the value that is added at each and every stage of a product. So here what is the important thing that we want to know is we want to know the value of the intermediate goods, and we want to know the value of the final goods. So these are the various components that we have to keep in our mind while we are calculating national incomes using these three methods. Now let's have a look into the formulas for each method. Like for income method, as we discussed that here we are considering income of factors of production. So wages and salaries are here, rent is there, then interest rate, that is for the capital, and the profits are here, dividends are here, undistributed corporate profits are here. Then we have corporate taxes, indirect taxes, we add depreciation in it, and we have to subtract transfer payments for calculating national income. So here for calculating gross national product, we add the incomes from various factors of production, and we add indirect taxes, and we add depreciation, and we subtract the transfer payments. Now let's have a look to the expenditure method. As we have discussed, like we take into account the personal expenditure, private investment, private expenditure, government expenditure, and net foreign investments. So these are the four things that we have to consider for calculating national income using expenditure method. Coming to the output method and value added method, here the gross value added is calculated as the gross value of the output, and we have to subtract the values of the intermediate goods. These are the formulas for three different methods of calculating national income. Coming to the term gross and net, see a lot of use of these terms, and we often get confused what is gross national product, what is net national product. And we also see different terms like national income at market price and national income at factor cost. So what these terms means and how they are different. So what are these? First of all, using expenditure method, if we calculate gross national product, how we calculate it? Like we have discussed, like we take consumption expenditure, we take into account government expenditure, then we take private investment, and we take net export. If we include net national income from abroad to this, then we come to gross national product. Okay, so if net income from abroad is excluded from GNP, it becomes GDP, that is domestic product, because here we are talking about a closed economy. We are not taking into consideration what are the incomes from abroad, and we are considering here closed economy. That is why it is known as domestic product, not national product. Okay, see what is the difference between market price and factor cost. Okay, if from GDP that we calculated, if we subtract depreciation from it, it becomes net product, net domestic product at market price. But for calculating factor cost, as its name suggested, factor cost. So here we have to consider the cost of each and every factor. So here we take into account wages, profits, interest rate, rents. Okay, so that is for land, labor, capital, and managerial activities. Here, okay, so these factor costs are taken into account for calculating net domestic product at factor cost. I think now it is clear what is the net domestic product at market price, what is the net domestic product at factor cost. Okay, and what is the basic difference between GNP and GDP. Let's see what is the major difference between national income when we calculate it in a open and when we calculate it in a closed economy. Okay, so what is GDP? GDP is gross domestic product and GNP is gross national product, as we have discussed earlier. So what is GDP? What actually GDP means? It is the value of goods produced and services provided within a country. Okay, and what is GNP? It is a value of goods produced and services provided by the residents of the country. It doesn't matter whether they are living inside the country or outside the country. So if we want to calculate GNP, if we add national net income from abroad in the GDP, then it becomes GNP. Okay, now let's see whose income to include in GDP and GNP. First of all, let's see about the income of the residents in a country. So it is actually included in both. If we see the incomes earned by foreigners in a country, it is included while calculating GDP, but it is excluded while calculating GNP. Okay, now let's see the income earned by residents that are living outside the country. If somebody is not living in India and he is earning some income, we do not include it while calculating GDP, but we do include it while calculating gross national product. And another thing that is the for income earned by the foreigners living outside the country, because they are not in our territory, and we do incomes earned by them are neither included in GDP nor for calculating GNP. So for a closed economy, but it becomes for a closed if there is closed economy, there will be the net income from abroad will become zero in that scenario. What will happen? The GDP will equal to GNP if the inflow is more then obviously GNP is going to be positive, and it is going to be more than GDP if there is outflow of the income, then GDP will be higher than GNP. Okay, okay, okay. other im- other important things to keep in mind and to understand what should be included and what should be excluded while calculating national income. It is very important because we usually get confused in between what we have to include and what we do not have to include while calculating national income. So if value of any intermediate good is excluded while calculating national income. Okay. Okay. The transfer payments that are made are excluded fooded for calculating national national income. Other thing is if there is any sale of the second hand or used good. It is not included while calculating national income because it is already included at the time uh, in the year where it was actually uh, 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 so sold at first hand. Okay. So sale of any land or any financial asset is also excluded while calculating national income. Imputed value of the services that are provided by a woman in a household. Our mother do a lot of work and and but the imputed value of the work they do for us is not included while the national income. Okay. Okay. What we should include while calculating national income. the value the value of the self consumed output. So if we are consuming some portion of the output, we calculate it we calculate the value for it imputed value for it, then we include it while calculating national income. So owners occupied housing services. These are included for calculating national income. Other thing is impu- imputed value of owners work in their own enterprises. If I own an enterprise and I work there. So I'm not getting any particular salary, but I have to uh, uh, put an number to it and to impute the value of my work and I will include that for calculating national